Welcome to another edition of the Cross and the Crescent discussion group. This is a blog talk radio show dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. We're here every Sunday afternoon at 9 p.m. Poland time and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5 p.m. on Tuesdays. We're here for about 2 hours. And some days it's a little over 2 hours, especially when our friend Paul Sutcliffe hosts the show and he's on here forever. And then when I'm on here, I don't have a lot of endurance. I'm older than Paul and I just don't have
a few days. Come on.
Well, it's older is older, that's just the way it is. Okay, so today, just a couple bookkeeping things, folks. We have a video that is kind of like an advertisement for next Sunday's show. Next Sunday, we are going to be discussing Surah 9:5, and I'm sure we're going to include Surah 9:4 in that. And the reason why we're doing this is because of a post-debate. Am I right on this? This is from a post-debate discussion that Kenny Bomer and what's his name? What does he go by? Who's the guy that he goes with? C.L. Edwards.
C.L. Edwards, yeah.
But what does he go by? Yabba Dabba Doo, Abu something.
Oh, something. Yeah, Yaz, Abu Yazzie, geez.
Abu
something
Yazid,
like that.
Okay.
Something like that.
If you don't know CL was a Muslim, converted to Christianity, and for all kinds of time when he was a Christian convert, argued for the Trinity, professed a belief in Christ as the Son of God. He did a lot of work with Sam Shimon and David Wood, and I
got a lot of money.
Wrote that. I don't know if he got a lot of money.
Yeah, he got a lot of money. He got a scholarship to a college. Yeah. So he built Christians for a lot of money.
All right,
but either way,
he got his jizya, I guess, from the Christians to get him educated. But anyway, he's used this to promote health, which I'm not against self-promotion at all. I do that on myself. And by the way, the people that are watching right now, you need to hit subscribe, like, share,
ring the bell.
Ring the bell, wage jihad on that bell and the like and share button, and get everybody here if you haven't. Today we have a very special guest, Lloyd De Jong. If I'm mispronouncing it, correct me please. But Lloyd is De Jong, like Stephen Dion. Like there was you know who Journey, the rock group Journey is? Okay, their lead singer was named De Jong, and just okay. Why you guys let me get off topic? Stop that. Okay, so Lloyd De Jong he has been making his rounds on a lot of the popular shows that we go to. He's been on Al Fadi's show, of course. Jay Smith's been at all kinds of time with Jay Smith. And have you been on David Wood's show yet with David?
I was mentioned briefly on David Wood's show. I was one of the top 5 finalists recently. But
okay. Right.
No, I've not been directly with him.
Okay. Well, if you haven't been over to Lloyd's channel, you need to go over to his channel and subscribe to it, because this guy, and I'm going to tell you, Lloyd, I was able to download your file that you had put out there on Google with all of your resources, and I felt like I stole something. I actually hid it so nobody else on my computer, so nobody else can find it. It was just absolute treasure trove of things to have, and we appreciate you putting that out there for everybody to go through, peruse, and learn from. So I invited Lloyd onto the show because of his expertise when it comes to the Sharia, when it comes to Islam itself, and providing a polemic for it or against it, however you want to coin the term. And he's got some really, really great information, but not only the information, but the depth that he's able to go into is just absolutely phenomenal. So we are looking forward to what Lloyd is going to be talking about today. We're going to start off with the Sharia, if I'm not mistaken on that. I just basically said, hey, you come on and you just do whatever you want. because I've seen him everywhere before, or all kinds of different places before, and whatever he's gonna talk about, people are gonna be interested in listening to. So, Lloyd, the microphone is yours. Take us any direction that you want to go. You have an hour and 49 minutes. Not a minute. I'm kidding. Take as much time as you need, brother.
Okay, so guys, get some extra sandwiches. Call your office. Tell them you'll be late for work tomorrow morning. We're going to be here for a while. Right. So welcome everyone, and thank you for having me here, everyone. Thank you, Eric and Paul. Good to see you again, and everyone else on the channel. I do encourage questions, so if you have them, please do ask, and I'll do my best to answer. I will also provide a link, which hopefully you'll add in the description and pin as a comment, so that everyone can download the sources that I will be showing, so that everyone can check them for themselves to verify what I'm saying. And yeah, so my name is Lloyd de Jong. I'm South African, because I keep getting asked. I live in Poland, in Warsaw, Poland, and I lived in the Middle East for 11 years. I worked in national defense. So I worked with governments, with the law enforcement, military, and industry. I designed long-range, wide-area, very sophisticated military-grade security systems running into the millions of dollars to defend against intrusion, to defend against sabotage and malicious acts by military actors, by also groups like ISIS. Often when things happen, I went to hot zones. I had to design systems to protect troops, to protect material and critical national infrastructure. Everything from well, there's a lot of interesting hardware out in the Middle East that you wouldn't think should be there. So let's just say everything from F-22s to to special forces camps and so on. I traveled extensively across the Middle East, and I saw a lot of the dysfunction that Islam brings. My eye-opener was in the Lebanon, to see how the Lebanon, which had been a Christian country, the only Christian country in the Middle East, had been basically overrun by Islam, and how this had changed the culture, brought war, brought political dysfunction, and yeah, the Bekaa Valley. I mean, that just opened my eyes, and I realized this is the future of Europe. This is the future of America. This is the future of the free world if this is not dealt with. And yeah, I come at this not from necessarily I'm Christian, but I don't come at this necessarily from a religious point of view. Let's say, obviously, if you're dealing with theology, you have to talk about religion. But I come at this from a security/military perspective. No, I was never in the military. I worked alongside the military. So yeah, I've been to all these places. I have seen all the things. I know the people. I know the culture very well, and I discuss Sharia. I don't spend time on the Quran. I don't spend time on the Hadith. And I'll be very blunt and upfront. Those are pretty much irrelevant.
Yes.
Those are raw materials. So if you want to talk about wedding cakes, you don't spend 99.8% of your time talking about, well, this is flour. Flour is white and powdery. Let's spend the whole day talking about flour. No, that's raw material. Then you have flour, you have sugar, and you combine those with a recipe, and out comes a wedding cake. The wedding cake is not the Quran. The Quran is the flour. The Hadith is maybe your eggs. And then you have a recipe, and then you have this final product. And the Sharia is the final product, the final implementation, the final interpretation and application of everything within the Quran and Hadith. I'll one more thing, and then I'll pause and hand over to you guys. See, the Quran is abrogated. So newer verses abrogate older verses. The Hadith are also abrogated. Newer Hadiths abrogate older Hadiths. What few people know is that newer Hadiths abrogate older Quran verses, and newer Quran verses abrogate older Hadiths. This leads to massive confusion. So the only way to sort out this confusion and the multiplicity of opinions was for the founders of these four schools of jurisprudence to develop the Sharia, which is the final understanding of what is relevant, what is applicable, what is still left after all of this abrogation, and the Sharia can never be abrogated. I'll pause there and let you guys ask questions.
Okay, so when you say the Sharia cannot be abrogated, let me get this straight. I'm being kind of a smart aleck here. You can abrogate the Quran, the eternal word of God, but you cannot abrogate the Sharia that is supposed to be complementary to it. Is that right?
So the Sharia is the final understanding without the confusion. So what is not in the Sharia is effectively obsolete. What is in the Sharia, when it references the Quran and the Hadith, those are what is still relevant to Islam, to the understanding of Islam.
So if you cannot abrogate Sharia, does that mean a quote newer concept of Islam is unacceptable?
Correct. Because, see, the Sharia incorporates what is known as the consensus, which they call the ijma. Now, this consensus, you see, the ijma the Sharia took about 800 or 900 years to develop. It did not happen overnight. And the major development happened sort of between the 8th and 10th, 11th centuries. And then there was some further development, refinement up until the 15th, 16th centuries. So there was a lot of confusion over what all this meant. There were actual wars, there were killings, there was a huge confusion. And they had to say, look, this is the final meaning. This is what Allah wanted. When we take all of these sources from the tafsir, the Quran, the hadith, and everything else, the sirah, mash it all together, what comes out as final? And this is the ijma. I hope, does that answer your question?
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't
So
know.
does
I was
anyone-
going to give people a chance to ask a question, but if
Sure.
nobody has asked the question, but I did want to touch back on the Sharia. So when you have within the Sharia itself, when you have a let's say, I don't know, a law against leaving Islam, apostasy, and people today say that, okay, we live in all kinds of Islamic countries today. People live or leave Islam every single day, and we're not killing them. How do they get around that if it's not abrogated?
So Islam has numerous doctrines. Now, let's say you have a verse in the Quran. The verse says, if he leaves his religion, kill him. That's a single verse. That's 5 words, 10 words. How do you apply that to a multiplicity, to all sorts of potential scenarios and situations that can develop? Well, they've got to go through all of the hadith sources. They've got to go through the sirah. They've got to go through the tafsir. Everyone has an opinion. All of this eventually leads to a final set of, so this leads to doctrine. This doctrine then leads to law, right? So now you have these laws. And so let me share my screen, and then I will answer your question as we go through this. Then I will screen 2. Okay, everyone should be able to see my screen here. So, for instance, Sharia law is far more detailed than the Quran. So you might have one Quran verse that says X, right? However, take, for example, someone mentioned something about Islam, but okay, lying, for instance. I just happen to be on this page. So the topic of lying in Islam. Christ says that he is the way, the truth, and the life. God is Logos. Logos is the truth. It is the spoken truth. It is the truth through example, by doing and by speaking. Notice Islam, within the reliance of the traveler, this is the world's most popular, the world's most well-known Islamic law manual. This is written for lay people, but it is used by imams all over the world. Notice they have a chapter here called Lying, section R 8.0. And of course, you can see here within this chapter on lying, they have permissible lying, section R 8.2. They also have lying in circumventing those forbidding the permissible. Now, these are technical words. They mean something specific. We are forbidding the permissible. We are fighting against Islam. We are speaking out against. We are not allowing it to spread freely. So they must lie to circumvent us. And 2, you have here obligatory lying. So lying in Islam is obligatory if it advantages Islam and if it advantages the Muslim. Then, of course, they have here an alternative to lying, as they say, giving a misleading impression, which is to deceive. This is legal within Islam. It is obligatory. So lying is a legal duty within Islam. Now, we could go into an example. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the law on Ridda, apostasy from Islam. So they cover this within this particular book. Now, each school of jurisprudence will have its own set of books. However, one scholar or one set of books will become the predominant opinion, will become the major opinion, and everyone goes from all the schools will go to just to that guy, that book, that opinion. Apostasy from Islam, Ridda, whoever voluntarily leaves Islam is killed. Section 8.1. There is no indemnity or expiation for killing this person. Right? So let's go have a look and see what they say about that. So that's section 8.1. So let's continue.
So when it says there's no indemnity, what you mean by that is there's no punishment for a person.
There's no punishment.
They're not going to hold it against him. Okay.
Correct. And we'll see this now. So for instance, you see, so now you have a verse in the Quran. Okay, great. There's a verse. How was it applied during the life of Muhammad? How was it applied during the life of the companions? What were the use cases for this? And then that becomes doctrine. Those are examples. If no example exists directly from the revelation, right, then how do we apply this? How do we use reason, logic to apply this to situations that weren't explicitly covered? And then that becomes your laws. Leaving Islam is the ugliest form of unbelief. It is the worst, and it may come about even through sarcasm, or you may say something out of fear. So apostasy is very easy to do in Islam. Now, under full Sharia, you asked, see, we're not in a caliphate, so we do not have full Sharia. So Islam has various rules that allow them to temporarily withhold full implementation of Sharia. But also you have what they call, there are two sets of laws. They're called rukhsa and azima. I'm going to put that up on the screen for the moment, actually. And I'm just going to go here because I'll be going through various things. So you have something called rukhsa and you have something called azima. Now, rukhsa is basically, think of it as leniency, and azima, strictness. You see, so for instance, when you apply the law without any kind of mitigation, that is azima, you're being strict. Whereas at the moment, you see, you can apply leniency, rukhsa, which is literally to violate or not apply any and every rule from the Quran, the Hadith, the Sharia, etc., because there's a reason for it, for whatever reasons. We can go into detail later, but both of those, even though they are diametrically opposite in many cases, they are both following doctrine, and in both cases, the Muslim gets reward. So the Muslim on the bridge, on London Bridge, who goes and stabs people in the eye and kills them, he is acting out of strictness. He's following the Sharia strictly. That's azima. The Muslims who don't do that, they are acting out of rukhsa, and they also get reward because they are still following doctrine correctly. Now, just to finish with apostasy, when a person who has reached puberty and is sane voluntarily apostatizes from Islam, he deserves to be killed. I think that's pretty explicit. They do say, ask him to return to Islam, and if he does, it is accepted from him, but if he refuses, he is immediately killed. Now notice, you'll go to various schools, they'll say, wait 3 days. But notice, they say here, that's an option. You see, that is rukhsa, that is waiting 3 days is rukhsa, that is leniency, that is allowing this range of behaviors. Azima is kill him right now. Wait 3 seconds, you don't like it, kill him right there. So that's the difference between rukhsa and azima, leniency and strictness. And there are other rules as well that also mitigate against acting this out. But if we have a caliphate, look at ISIS, look at the Taliban, they implement these things strictly. So does that answer your question, Eric?
Yeah, it does, and I appreciate that. So what you're basically saying is that it all depends on where on this planet you're standing. So if you're standing in London, they're just not going to run through the streets yelling Allah Akbar and stabbing all the apostates. But however, if you were to go through,
not yet,
very
Give it a few years.
right, yeah, give it some time, right. But if I was like in say Pakistan, and I was out there blaspheming Muhammad, saying Muhammad is this, that, and everything but a decent human being, then I could probably expect the azima type application of the Sharia.
Correct. Then they will enforce it strictly. So Sharia will be, now some people are doing it on a curve. Some want it suddenly, now. They want it immediately. And some are willing to wait, take their time. So you have this little interplay between those who are strict and those who are lenient, those who are using this, well, not fully strict, let's just say. Now, something I want to introduce as well that people might learn from the Sharia. So within Christian belief, now Christianity is not a religion of law. Islam is a religion of law. And it makes no difference between moral law, civil law, and ceremonial law or ritual law. So within Judaism, for instance, you have ritual law. For instance, wash your hands before you eat. Right? That is part of the ritual law of the Pharisees. Jesus chastised the Pharisees for that in the Bible, for instance, right? For not doing so. That is ritual law. Moral law, of course, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not rape, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, etc. That is moral law. And then, of course, you have civil law, which is enacted by the courts. Islam makes no distinction between those three. All of them are the same as far as Islam's concerned. Now, there's the Great Commission within Christianity where you have to go forth into the world and spread the gospel. Am I correct in stating that's the Great Commission?
Yes, Matthew 28. Go ye therefore
Right.
and teach all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Ghost. Man, and was I a good little Lutheran boy or what? That's exact.
Excellent.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So now this is the Islamic Great Commission, commanding the right and forbidding the wrong, or commanding virtue and forbidding vice. They'll give it a bunch of different names, right? Commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. So let's have a look at just the outline. So there's an obligation. Now, these are all legal terms. They're not randomly selected words. Understand that the Sharia books, Muslims will say, oh, that's just some random book that was only valid for 12 minutes in the 14th century, was read by 3 people, and it's now a museum piece, and no one does that, right? Understand that there are certain projects put forward by various Islamic governments, put forward by various Islamic institutions, major institutions, and they prioritize the translation of critical Islamic books. This was one of the very first to be translated into English because it is so important.
What was the name of this book again?
The Reliance of the Traveler.
Oh yeah, okay. Let me ask you a question about this because we've had to deal with this on the show before. Let's say I'm an imam here in the United States, and I make the statement, well, I have never heard of nor read The Reliance of the Traveler. Would that person be truthful in saying that?
That may be the case. However, don't forget, it is legal to lie. In fact, it is obligatory to lie.
I've actually had that particular lie stated to me in a public forum. So, but the guy had already lied, so I called him out and called him a liar, which was pretty bad.
Yeah. Understand, it is illegal for Muslims to share the Sharia with you. It is actually treason because they are revealing secrets. In fact, technically, it's weaknesses of Islam. So the Sharia is considered, in a real sense, a weakness. It is the threat doctrine of Islam. It's the operational doctrine of this group. And hold
on. So, I'm sorry. It's illegal for a Muslim to discuss or share the Sharia with a non-Muslim.
Yes.
Yeah. It's treason. The penalty is death.
Because it reveals their secrets.
Yes.
It's a secret. Yeah.
Yes.
Sharia is a secret. Yes.
That's in the beginning of Reliance the Traveler, isn't it?
That's one of the early ones. I mean, there's a number of things you have put together, but yeah, I'll show some of those things. I'll actually touch on all of this stuff. So let me show you.
Know that.
Yeah. No, sure. That's why no one talks about it. You're not allowed to talk about it.
Very quickly.
Yes.
Very quickly, George here. Yes. I find that they tend not to want to share it. However, what if they counter by saying, "Oh, that's just cultural. Oh, you're just relating." That's law
always
of a specific country.
Okay, you know what? Let me deal with that for you right now. Give me a second. I will bring up a resource. That's a good question. It's a very good question.
Well, the idea of not being able to share one's faith or the justifications for it, it'd be like saying, well, I'm not going to talk to you about what the early church fathers had to say.
Right.
That's insane, is what that is.
Okay. So to deal with George's question, which was a very good question, actually, thank you for that. I want you to see here. This is Wikipedia. Now, understand, people are going to go, oh no, he's using Wikipedia. When Wikipedia is correct, it is correct. Yes, Wikipedia has some serious problems, but in this case, this can be corroborated with a number of sources, but it's just the easiest one for me to get to right now. So these are the maxims. These are certain important maxims of Islamic law, which are normative across the schools of fiqh, okay, or the schools of jurisprudence. Notice it says here, cultural usage has the weight of law. So Muslims will say that is not Islam, that is culture. The problem is in the Sharia, if it's cultural, it's Islamic. If a practice is cultural, it is Islamic. So honor killing, female genital mutilation, well, was that a practice in the culture when Islam got there? Well, if it doesn't violate the Sharia, knock yourself out. It now becomes part of the law.
Child marriages would be considered cultural.
We'll discuss that too. We'll go into some nasty depth on that, yes.
Yes.
But cultural usage. Now, they mention other sources. You can find any number of sources discussing these from Islamic societies, Islamic authors, Islamic sheikhs, highly trained Islamic scholars. Because Muslims always say, have you consulted a scholar? Oh, yes, I have. And no, the trolls in the YouTube comments are not scholars. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you guys are not. So does that answer your question, George?
Yes. I get where you're going for sure.
Okay. Now, so basically the Great Commission in Islam is to command the right and to forbid the wrong. So let's have a look at how they are supposed to do this, right? They speak of censoring. Now, censoring is not to censor, as in sense, but technically you can call it similar. It is to prevent something, to halt something from happening, right? To chastise someone, to take action. So, Eric, if you want to have a read through this list for me, the highlighted bits, please, to see how Muslims must apply their Great Commission.
Okay, so you got the degrees of severity, explaining that something is wrong, forbidding the act verbally, censuring with hard words. Oh, that's a good one. Writing the wrong by hand, intimidation, assault, force of. This sounds like a rap sheet that somebody would have if
It
they
sounds like
had,
a mafia instruction manual.
Yes.
a list of crimes somebody could be charged with. Yeah, go ahead.
So understand, when they say censuring with harsh words, this explains why Muslim apologists will start to use vile, abusive language, because they're instructed. When you read through this, it says to use abusive. So censuring with harsh words, they speak of vile language, to use abusive language, to start to disparage, insult, belittle, denigrate, and swear at whatever insults you want to perform. Right? This is considered legal. It is considered holy. It is considered moral. This is how Muslims must basically proliferate their deen, using assault. And understand, this is a recommended order. This is not an obligatory order. You can start here if you like. So there are rules.
Okay.
So if you can get away with it, do it. If you can't, well, then, start easy. Any comments, Eric? Anyone else?
Hold on. We got our favorite. Where's this guy from? Philippines?
He's the Filipino dancer.
Oh my God.
The not ready to cognitively debate.
All right. Okay. Just hit Control Shift I for ignore whatever he has to say. That's fine. All right. I'll just never mind. Yeah, you're running away.
No, I've invited him numerous times. However, look, he's known for being very abusive on channels. Understand? In fact, he follows this using harsh words. That is in the instruction manual. I mean, we can go into detail. This is just the index, right? But also notice he's lying too, because I've said, you and me, let us discuss the Sharia. I will read the Sharia. I'll provide the rulings. Give us your comment. It's not a debate. It's a discussion. Joe Rogan is very popular for having talks, asking questions. Notice he always says comparative Islam versus Christianity, because Islamic,
that's not a debate.
That's not it, right? But notice he wants to have this discussion because they want to force the discussion towards Christianity and away from Islam. They cannot defend Islam.
Right.
They know what's in it. But notice
I
also,
offer to debate him on what, and I have him defend that the Quran is a clear communication device, and he never accepts. So he runs from the debate all the time. And he's not cognitively ready to debate. It took us almost an hour to try and explain what the word debate meant.
Yeah. No, I will. You see this term adab al-jadal that I've got here. Okay. This is not known to many people, but Islamic debate Islam has a particular form of debate based on sophistry, rhetoric, and propaganda. Right? So based on deception, sophistry, and propaganda. The name for it is adab al-jadal. Now, I'll go into this later. I can actually bring up the notes and show you guys step by step. But Islamic debate is designed to be deceptive. It is designed to not find truth. It explicitly is designed not to find truth. In fact, let me go here. It is designed to convince, to win. Okay? So let me see if I can find it here within the resource. Here we go. Notice here, this is a very simple discussion. This is a very simple definition from the Encyclopedia of Islam. Adab al-Jadal. In theology and law, a method of debating. This is the Islamic method of debating, in which were discussed questions that were controversial. It was not a matter of finding the truth, but of convincing the opponent.
Okay, Lloyd.
Yeah?
The YouTube video was not available now.
Say again, please. Sorry.
We're
what'd you
not
say,
streaming on YouTube now.
Oh,
Say that again. What? Whoa.
oh my.
YouTube is
Uh,
not streaming now.
Yeah, all of a
video
sudden
has-
it stopped.
Oh no! Really? Jeez.
Wow.
It
Hold
says
on.
we stopped streaming.
Wow.
Where does it say? Where?
No.
Whoa. Where does it say this?
It just did. It just did. It says we stopped streaming 29 minutes. It says we stopped. That right there.
The account has been terminated.
What?
Who?
What?
That you are blocked. You are your account has been terminated on YouTube. It says.